Our story starts with a ball. From the very beginning, we see an incredibly beautiful girl, with cute looks and with long blonde hair. Her name is Arhin Aband. She's 23 years old and recently engaged. The girl, smiling sweetly, asks herself who she would choose for today. That's what she's been thinking because of recent events. Traveling back in time a bit, we learn that the girl does not want to marry Count Amu. A man tells the girl that the Count wants to marry the Baroness. Apparently, the girl does not like this at all and refuses to marry him outright, and also tells the man that it is very rude of him to bring her here. The girl turns around and walks towards the front door, telling the man that she has nothing more to say to him, and therefore prefers to leave. The man calls her Milady and tells her that the ship in which her father, Baron Aband, has invested his fortune has sunk. The man says that the Earl holds a high position in society and has a huge fortune, while telling the girl to think about the current state of affairs of her family and her sick mother. Apparently, the girl was affected by these words because she stopped and looked sadly at the floor. The man tells the girl not to do anything stupid because she doesn't want anything bad to happen to her family again. The story shifts to the girl's home. A woman indignantly asks the girl if it is called marriage. She says that it seems her beauty has attracted Count Amu and begs the girl not to marry such a horrible man as she does not want to. The girl, smiling sweetly, not wanting to tell her nanny that everything is fine, and asks her what would be wrong if she became a countess. The girl says that she has already made up her mind, so there is no need for them to worry. Instead, the girl suggests keeping the news a secret from her parents. The girl thinks about the fact that she was born a baroness in a noble family and grew up surrounded by parental love and care. All this time, the nanny held the girl's hands, and the girl looked directly at her. The girl thought that she should get engaged first. She thought that if she didn't like something, she'd think about it later. At this time, she was only thinking about money, which could save her mother from illness. The girl talks to her maid and tells her not to worry because in her opinion the main character of the party will not have time to kiss. The girl looks very happy that she realizes that most likely she will not have any close relationship with the main character of the party. At the same time, she tells her nanny that at this reception there will be a very large number of people. Then she and some handsome man who supposedly accidentally meet her eyes will leave that noisy party somewhere, while the girl imagines the moment of her kiss with some man whose face we cannot see. The girl thanks Deborah, holding an envelope in her hand. The girl thinks that she will give her first kiss only to the person she truly loves. The action shifts to the moment of the party. Near the end of the ball, the girl asks herself why even at the end of the party at the ball was not one attractive man. There were only some obscure and not quite handsome young men. She looks very upset about this. The frustrated girl, in a fit of anger and despair, drinks a glass of wine. Then she casts her eyes on a young guy who stands out very much by his appearance against the background of the rest. Unlike the other men who are present at this party, he is much more attractive. When the girl sees him, she comes a little closer to him. And then the guy also notices the girl approaching him, at which point they cross each other's eyes, and it seems like they like each other. The girl who noticed that the guy looked at her asks herself if the guy really paid attention to her and looked at the girl. She looks quite surprised that she is not the only one who paid attention to the guy, although the girl is pleasantly impressed that the guy paid attention to her. Immediately, she puts her hand over her mouth and realizes that she drank too much alcohol at this party. At this point, the guy starts to approach her, but the girl immediately hurriedly removes herself from the room. Realizing that she became ill, the girl decided to go out on the balcony, where at night under the moonlight she sits and breathing in the fresh air, thinking that it becomes much easier, and she even feels some pleasant relief. The guy who paid attention to the girl also follows her outside. He starts to approach the girl and states that he can keep her company. The girl is pleasantly impressed by this, and looks back at the guy to see if the guy she was watching has come out. Approaching her, a happy guy says that he hopes that the girl does not mind his company. At this point, the girl looks at the guy and wonders if this is not the man she has just met and who has blessed her with his attractiveness. The girl was suddenly embarrassed that the guy had followed her. Her face flushed a little, and she told him that of course she didn't mind him keeping her company. At this moment, both characters are sitting on the balcony. Behind them, you can see the beautiful moon. They look at each other, and we can notice how cute they are when they are together. The girl looks closely at the guy. It seems that she can't believe her eyes. Looking at him, she thinks that up close, this young man looks even more handsome than she thought before. The guy is also looking at the girl, trying to tell her something, but you can't finish your thought. He asks the main character if they have met somewhere before. You can see from the guy's face that he really thinks that he could have met the main character somewhere before. The girl blushes even more when looking at the guy. At this moment, she thinks that this is just one of the tricks that the young guy uses to attract the girl's attention to himself and to make a dialogue with her. The girl thinks that maybe it's all because she's drunk. In her head, she praises the guy and says he looks very attractive when he tries to pull his tricks, with the enthusiastic guy seeming to tell the girl something while she's immersed in her thoughts. Also looking at the guy, surprised girl pays attention to his beautiful eyes, and seeing how he gesticulates, she looks at his hands and realizes that unlike his face, the hands of a young guy all in calluses. The girl thinks about the fact that this characteristic of his hands she likes very much, which is quite unusual. The guy, seeing that the girl practically does not listen to him and does not pay attention to the words he said, turns to her and asks her if she had a lot to drink. The guy seems to be worried about the girl's condition. He gently touches her shoulders and states that in his opinion she is very drunk. He also asks her if she feels well enough. The girl thinks about the fact that this guy is the man. At this moment, it seems to hit her. She realizes that if she doesn't do it now, she may never get this chance again in her life. The girl says that the guy might think she's crazy, but something unusual happens to her. She immediately asks the guy directly if he would like to kiss her. But the girl doesn't look like she's joking, and her facial expression tells us that she wants the guy to kiss her seriously. The young man himself. Of course, very surprised by such a question from the girl, he apologizes to the girl and interrogates her about it. The girl says she can't kiss him without his consent, and she also tells him that if he doesn't want them to kiss, he has to tell her right now. The girl says she'll close her eyes until she counts to 5. So if the guy's not going to kiss her, he can just walk away. The girl actually closes her eyes and starts counting. After she has finished counting, the guy still stays in the same place. He looks at the girl as if puzzled, but they still touch each other. That means they both don't mind kissing each other. Same thing, the girl. She looks pretty happy and tells the guy that if he hasn't left, it just means he's okay with making out with her right now. They begin to slowly approach each other, and after looking expressively into each other's eyes, they begin to kiss passionately. This moment looks especially romantic, especially if you know that the girl had imagined it before. After they finished kissing and separated their lips from the passionate kiss, the girl, who is a little embarrassed and blushing, thanks the guy for agreeing to kiss her. After the girl said these words, she immediately turns her back to the guy and starts running back to the hall where the party is taking place, while the guy who is watching all this remains puzzled. He wonders what's going on, because the girl who literally begged him to kiss her before after kissing him just turned around and ran back where they came from. We find out that the guy's name is Ludwig Bert. At the moment when all the actions at the ball took place, it was the last night of February 718, according to the imperial calendar. It was today that a coming-of-age ceremony and 20th birthday party was held for Marquis Bert, at which point the guy noticed that the girl bit his lip during the kiss. It was morning and the girl was puzzled because she woke up not in her room. When she opened her eyes, she realized that she had a very bad headache. After a few seconds, she realized that she was in the room of her friend Deborah. A girl with very bad headaches gets out of bed in bewilderment and asks you how she got to her friend's room in the first place. At this point, the girl suddenly remembers her incidents from last night. She puts her hand over her face and wonders what she did last night. Obviously, this question is rhetorical, and the girl is just regretting her actions. She recalls those beautiful moments when at night under the moonlight she kissed the beautiful Marquis at the celebration of his 20th birthday. At first, the girl, as if once again enjoying that tender kiss. But then she starts to blush, and coming to her senses after last night's binge, she realizes that all the actions she committed last night under the influence of alcohol are completely insane. The girl said that she went crazy. Her scream was heard almost in the whole house. After that, her friend comes to her, to whom the main character told all yesterday's incidents. The girl is very surprised by what she heard and asks the girl if she understood correctly that she said that she stole someone's kiss at the ball yesterday. She also asks who was the guy with whom she kissed. She says she doesn't even know who she was kissing, but her friend asks her in surprise if she really doesn't know the name of her chosen one. The girl states that this is indeed true, but she remembers that the guy she gave her first kiss to had shiny blonde hair that appears to be blue, white, or silver. And she also notes that the guy had amazingly beautiful eyes. The girl herself seems to guess with whom she had the first kiss in her life, noticing that the guy had blonde hair. She realizes that this guy is Marquis Ludwig Bert. We learn that Marquis is a famous social lion who is kind to everyone, but who hides something unusual behind his always strained smile. We realize that the guy is not so simple as it seems at first glance. Her friend at this point also guesses who her close friend's first kiss was with. The protagonist says that this guy had strong hands, and it seems to her that judging by his calluses, he is very good with a sword. At the same moment, the girl once again realized that according to all her characteristics, that guy is the same Marquis Bird. Her friend began to panic while the protagonist asks her friend to help her. Deborah asks Archon if she didn't randomly threaten the guy. The girl in desperation tells her friend that she can't even remember whether the guy made sure to honor her request, but kissing. Deborah tells her friend that, in her opinion, the man she forced to kiss her is the main character of the party. Archon can't believe it was the host himself because to her, the guy didn't look particularly dangerous. Deborah, with a serious look, tells her friend that among women emotionally involved with the Marquis, there is no point. She tells her friend that there are rumors among men and women that all such liaisons have ended miserably. At this point, the frightened girl asked her friend if there was no exception. Deborah angrily answered the girl that up to that moment there was no exception, so this fact she must keep secret until his death. Archon is desperate to hope that the beautiful Marquis was so drunk that he couldn't even remember her face. She thinks she can only pray that everything will go without any complications. At this moment, the Marquis, sitting in his study, could think of nothing else but the passionate kiss which had taken place last night at the ball. He thought of her lips, and remembered that yesterday he had forgotten to bite her lip. The guy couldn't let go of the thought that even if yesterday it wasn't just a kiss, he would never remember anyone's appearance as clearly as he remembered the appearance of the mysterious girl who ran away after the first kiss. The guy smilingly thinks it's the first time that's ever happened to him. The girls are already saying goodbye as Archon already has to go home. Deborah asks the girl if she feels well enough and if she needs a chaperone to walk home. Archon tells her friend not to worry about her. The girl says she's just a little hungover and needs to get away for a while. She says goodbye to Deborah and tells her she'll text her when she gets home. As the girl walked along the road to the house, she thought about the fact that she was not sure whether she would be able to marry Count AMU. She doesn't want to marry him at all because she wants to feel true, sincere love. Waking up to real life, the girl heard some noise, turned back to see what happened there. The girl asks herself, what could have happened? As she made her way through the crowd, the girl wondered what was wrong. She began to read an advertisement for the recruitment of male knights. The advertisement said that there would be a skills test and that they would be given a living allowance. The girl looks sadly at all this and says that she is very jealous. Because it's not fair, she thinks to herself, that it would be very good if they recruited female knights too. The girl looks at her delicate hands and says that if her family's situation hadn't deteriorated so much, she could do what she likes instead of what she's forced to do. After a few seconds, the girl picks herself up by the head and forces herself to sober up. After all, for her in this life, family comes first, and she should not neglect it. The girl, with a sad look, already hopeless and devastated, says that first of all, she must marry Count AMU. She thinks that only in this way she can save her family and Baron Abend. The girl says that this is all she has to think about now, and nothing else. Her father had invested all his property and wealth in a ship that had sunk. At that moment, the girl thought that everything was ending for her here. It's as if she's seeing that picture again, where her parents are talking to each other in despair, and her father is apologizing to his wife, saying it's all his fault. But her mother is comforting her husband, telling him that he shouldn't do this to himself. The video didn't know it would be like this, and she assures her husband that everything will be okay. The girl, as if muffling all her emotions, says that if she suffers a little, the situation in her family will improve. The girl sacrifices herself and her life to save her family because for her it is the most important thing. The girl with pain and grief on her face thinks it's all normal. As long as everyone is happy with her marriage, she feels like she's in a cage she can't get out of. As she approaches her beautiful big house, she tells her family that she's back home, smiling and not giving any indication of what's going on in her life right now. Her parents, when they heard that their daughter had returned, immediately called her to their house and hugged her very tightly. According to them, they all found out about the marriage from the girl's nanny. While her mother was in tears, her father asked the girl why she had agreed to marry Count Amu, and why she had not told them anything. The girl smiled without showing any pain, but her father asked if their daughter had really decided to get engaged to Count Amu because she was worried about them. The girl's father says that he informed the Count that he never intended to give his daughter in marriage to him. He tells his daughter not to worry about anything because she shouldn't do it. At that moment, the girl was surprised and asked her father how he was going to never marry her off. The girl asks what will happen to their family if she doesn't marry the Count. The girl's father was outraged and said that he was not going to stand by and watch his daughter marry a man she didn't love just because she was worried about her family's situation. The man says that this is much more important than their money problems. He says that apart from that, all the problems of their family should be solved by him and not by the little girl, and so he tells his daughter not to worry about it because he will do everything. The girl's mom sweetly puts her hand on the girl's face, tells her that her father is right, because the happiness of their daughter is most important to them. They want only happiness and love for their daughter, not a life spent in agony. The girl's mother tells her that as a last resort they can sell the house they live in, as it is very large, and move to a smaller house, and use the remaining money to buy medicine for her. Hearing these words from her parents, the girl was very happy, and thanked her parents for not giving her away and taking care of her. From all this we understand that the girl has a beautiful and kind family, and her parents very loving, and very dear to the life and the future of their beloved and desirable daughter. Sitting in her room with her face in her pillow, a girl thinks about the fact that she kissed a handsome man only to create good memories before the wedding. The girl in her head denies it, but at the same time realizes that she kissed him just recently. She thinks she did it because she thought she was getting married soon, but now she's not getting married and she's tormented by her own conscience. She thinks about him, remembers what he looks like, and says he must be very embarrassed about it. The guy got right into the girl's heart, because she can't think of anything else but that. Besides that, she realized that she didn't even ask him his name, and thinks it would have been better if she had. Suddenly, she gets up from her pillow, and sure enough, she says it's not the time to think about it. She's thinking that she can't just sit around, and she has to do something for her parents. The girl wondered how she could make money. She asked herself if she could make money by wielding a sword. She says they pay a large living allowance. The girl says being a knight is an honorable and high-paying job. She asks herself if they have another high average salary and lifetime allowance. According to her, we understand that she is good with a sword, for she said that this was her chance. She says that it would be enough for the Baron to live on. The girl says that on such a salary it will not be possible to live as richly as she used to live, but for a comfortable living it is quite enough. Arkin says that the biggest obstacle is that a woman can't become a knight because they don't have it. At this time, the girl takes one sword, and we see that she wields it very well. The girl says that when it comes to ball possession, she's very confident that she can beat any man, and in her opinion, there's no problem. But she still has a little bit of doubt. A girl looks at herself in the mirror, and it seems that something does not suit her. The girl takes her hair and scrutinizes it. She asks herself what she should do with her hair, because her hair should not be seen by anyone. The girl thought hard and decided to put all her hair in one ponytail. The girl looking at herself in the mirror, she was shocked at the way she put her hair together. She says that no one would have thought that a nobleman's daughter could do such a ponytail. Archon took another good look at herself in the mirror and decided that her tail was high enough, and now it was time for her to make money for her family with that sword. A few days later in the afternoon rest, The maid informs Deborah that she has received a letter, which turns out to be from Archon. The girl enthusiastically opens the letter, hoping that it contains good news. Archon writes to her friend that she is going to pass herself off as a man and join the Berta Knights to earn money. Deborah at this point became very angry and wondered if this was not a joke, or if Archon really wanted to join the Order of Knights. It turned out that this order belonged to the Marquis Ludwig Bert. Reading this letter, Deborah immediately thought that the Marquis Ludwig, at the sight of the beautiful Archon, would remember that very night of the ball, and who had kissed him on the balcony in the moonlight. After reading this letter, Deborah became very upset and asked herself, hadn't her friend made enough mistakes already that she now wanted to find her own way to death? The girl doesn't understand why her friend is doing this to herself, besides that she told her before the ball to beware of the Marquis. Well, the girl, without knowing, ran right into him. Deborah hopes that her beloved friend Archon will be all right. At the same time Archon is preparing for the competition, she is confident that she can handle it and encourages herself that everything will be great. But at the same time, she wonders if she is forgetting her origins and digging a hole to bury herself. A girl pretending to be a guy and looking for, where is the selection in the night? She says it must be around here somewhere. Then she sees a man sitting behind a bench and realizes that she has come to the right place. She coughs a little to change her voice and smilingly tells the man that he has come to be knighted, with her tail slightly visible from the hood. The man tells him to take the statement, but says that candidates for knighthood have no right to divulge information about the content of the exam and about what was on the selection. He says that the organizers are not responsible for injuries sustained during the trials. At this point, the girl signs a statement, thinking it sounds irresponsible, but she's already come this far and can't go back. The girl pretends to be a guy, tells the man that he's already filled it out. The man says the guy is candidate number 209, and he'll check his application later. He looks at the paper and asks if the guy's name is Arun. You can see a bit of worry on the girl's face, but smiling, she confirms that her name is Arun. The man takes a stamp and puts it on the application and says that the application has been accepted. The man gave the guy a ticket, which says that he is number 209 and his name is Arun. She says that her name is not Archon, but Arun, and that her friend Deborah must have gotten her letter by now. The girl thinks that her friend Deborah should have gotten her letter by now. The girl is already at the selection of knights. There are many men there, and then it is heard that numbers 205 to 209 should go forward. Confident girl says that now it is her turn. We find ourselves in the past where a little girl called Berta, a nice girl, says she's seen some very beautiful places and wants to take the guy there. The girl takes the guy's hand and leads him to the place. It turns out to be a very beautiful place. It's like magic. He thinks it's so warm and beautiful, like it's a dream. The girl is very positive and energetic. She runs and takes small petals while calling the guy and telling him that these petals are like his beautiful and magical eyes. At this time, the guy thought he was having so much fun, and the fact that he hadn't felt this way in a long time, he prayed that this time would never end. In his opinion, if it did, everything would be great. The girl, smiling sweetly, tells Bert that she has to go home, but she will be back soon. He asks the girl not to leave, as if he feels that they will never see each other again. The guy says that the words that Sister Louise said then was that sometimes love is just a touch, while telling him that it was a North Country greeting taught to her by a friend. The girl put her hand on the guy's shoulder and kissed him sweetly on the cheek. It's a bright spark for him. The girl bid him farewell while he stood in a stupor holding her hand on his cheek. He says he was a kid then, so he didn't fully understand the meaning of the words, but as he got older, he thinks he figured it out. Spring passed, summer and fall passed, and now came winter. The guy stood in the cold and waited for that little girl. He hoped she would come. At that time, he was sure of it. Then the boy thought he would never go back there, and he opened his eyes and said, "Please come back." He woke up and stood up on the bed, holding his head. The action shifts to the knight's selection. The Marquis, thinking he's not expecting anything interesting, and you can see from his face that he's not at all thrilled to be standing here. Ludwig Bert. A few years ago, after the death of his father, he inherited the title of Marquis. Since then, he has lived only to protect his title but at the same time he has to endure the slanted glances of others. He thinks that, in such situations, childhood memories are a luxury for him, but he does not understand why the girl he met in the palace, at the ball that night, suddenly appeared in his dreams. He wonders if it could be because he met that girl at the reception. He says she's a delightful girl. According to him, her eyes are like a combination of emerald and gold. Marcus says he checked everyone at the party that night, but he never found the mystery girl he kissed that night. In his opinion, someone's hiding this girl because they don't want him to find out. The guy breaks out of his thoughts and looks at the selections. Then our heroine appears with a delightful number that threw everyone into a stupor. Her hood was off, so her tail was in full view of everyone. Marquise and his assistant were thrilled with her performance. Marquis asks if it is number 209, while his assistant says it is the most, and asks Marquis if he too thinks he looks like a pretty good warrior. He looks at Arun in surprise and says his name. According to him, this name is quite interesting. While looking directly at our heroine just smiles and waits for his results. The second part of the night's selection exam has already begun. 10 participants, starting with number 200, are asking to go inside. At this time, our heroine convinces herself that there is nothing to be afraid of, as she has already reached the second round. The heroine calms down and tells herself that she can't worry. She thinks that if everything goes on as it has been up to this point, there can't be any problems. The girl looks up at the judges with a sad look and admires them since they look very nice, cute. She asks herself, "Are these guys judges?" One of the judges says that in the second round of the competition, the contestants just need to demonstrate their ball skills. He says that they can perform various movements with the sword, or even strike a blow. The judge says that the first to start is number 209, which is our heroine. She remembers her childhood when she was still learning to wield a sword, and goes over in her head the phrases her teacher told her. Her swordsmanship teacher told her it was just a basic skill, and that she should never give up. The girl thinks that these words, which the teacher always emphasized. She started showing off her sword skills, so that all the other contestants were amazed at her skills. She handled the ball like a professional fighter. Marquise, who is one of the judges, asks the others if everything is okay. Another judge says that contestant number 209, very good skills. They say it looks elegant, like a dance with a sword, but at the same time all his blows are precise and accurate, without unnecessary movements. Another judge says that his sword skills can be called exemplary. Hearing these words on the face of our heroine could see relief. And when it was reported that successfully passed the second round of numbers 209, 250, 252, our heroine could not believe what she had just heard. Out of these 3 contestants, our heroine stood out a lot, so Marquis takes notice of her, and his face looks as if he would recognize that she is a girl. The judge tells them that he is glad to see them all. When the commander of the knightly order, Bert, introduces himself, Ludwig Bert to be exact, the girl recognizes him and can't believe it's the same guy from the ball. The girl wondered what she should do now. After all, this man is right here in front of her eyes. She was confused and let her head down a little. At the same time, you can see the surprise on her face. The Marquis tells them that the third round is known as sparring. He tells the contestants that they may use swords or engage in hand-to-hand combat, but points out that cheating is strictly forbidden, and wishing them success, tells them to be ready. The girl turns around to step aside, while the Mark stood from behind and looked at her. The whole time the girl had only one thing on her mind. She hoped he didn't recognize her. The girl with a sad face looked up directly at the Marquis and thought that even she couldn't tell the difference between herself and the guy, so there was no way he could recognize her, but still, her hood was removed. The girl looked at him with a very cold gaze, and at this moment Marquis was looking directly into her eyes. And in his head, he thought that this person had a very cold expression. The girl does not understand how she could kiss such a man, because in her opinion, he has a sinister aura around him. And that's when the picture of them kissing appears in front of her. The judges have already announced that the contestants who have made it to the third round should go to the middle to start the competition and fight among themselves. The girl with the confidence of Chagall and thought it was okay, and he shouldn't recognize her. She thinks she should only concentrate on the exam and nothing else. The third round has officially started, and her opponent asks how can a child as small as a rat make it to the third round. The girl didn't even pay attention because she thought that most of those who said such things had lost to her. They began to fight, and her rival wanted to hit her, but the girl defended herself. She thought that he looked down on her, so he wanted to end it with one blow. After a short fight, he wanted to hit her, but the girl thought she'd never give up, and finally thought it was time to end it, so she hit him first. The guy fell to the ground, failing, while the girl won. One of the judges was delighted and said that number 209 looks weak and unprepared, but it is amazing how easily he blocked all the attacks of the enemy. The judge tells the captain that this man is just right for them. One contestant thought he looked weak, but he was strong enough, while thinking he wanted to see more. The judge announces that the exam is over. They say he will discuss everything and then announce the selected candidates. He thanks everyone for their enthusiasm and says that this concludes the third round of the exam. The girl noticed that Marquis was looking directly at her and thought that of course he wasn't looking at her because he missed her. She thought that in the future, if she kept it a secret, she wouldn't have any problems. The girl was just about to leave and suddenly she hears someone calling her. Turning back, she sees Marquis Ludwig Bert, who looks at her smiling and asks her to stay a little longer. He calls out as if to a guy, and our heroine approaches him. But in her mind, she wondered what she should do now. She wondered if he really didn't recognize her, like she was hoping he would. The guy looks at her and asks her if they've met before. The girl starts to panic and asks herself what she should do and what kind of trick she could think of. While she looked at him and wondered what could be in his head, he looked at her without averting his gaze. At that moment, the girl thought what a fierce look he had. At that moment, the girl started to panic and thought that she had never seen that look on his face before. She confidently thought that he really knew who she was, and that's why he was asking her. The girl thought at that moment that if she continued to lie without reason, then not only she but her family would be in great danger, and so she decided to tell him the truth. The girl confesses and says that she has indeed seen him before, but she worships him. She says that she will take responsibility for her act and apologizes, saying she is sorry. A guy asks a girl if her name is Arun, her real name. The girl is silent the whole time and doesn't answer him anything. He asks her what good reason she has to hide her identity and gender. The girl replies that she simply borrowed the name from an acquaintance because she could not pass the selection, being a woman. You can see regret in her gaze and fear for what will happen next. The Marquis listening to her to the end, asking the girl why he should accept for service, a man with a false statement. For because of this, he will not be able to trust her. Archon puts her hand on her heart and begins to tell the truth about who she really is. She says her name is Archon Avand, and she is the eldest daughter of Baron Karl Avand. The girl says that it was not easy for her as a woman to join the order, so she took a man's name and came to the selection, with her facial expression expressive and confident. The guy asks the girl in bewilderment why she decided to change her name and come to the selection. He says he doesn't understand it at all, while his look doesn't look not so scary. He started to say something after saying the girl's name, but the girl interrupted him and said that she didn't want to bury her swordsman abilities in the ground, simply because she was a woman, and she also had financial problems, with her face looking rather sad. The Marquis, with an angry face and with confidence, asks the girl that if she came to the selection of knights, then she knew that the knights of the order would receive a lifetime allowance. The girl says she knows that this is very dangerous, and she's willing to honorably accept any punishment. She says that nevertheless, she wants him to know that becoming a knight has been her lifelong dream. The guy approaches the girl even more and tells her that the paladin never asked her gender, and also she never mentioned that she was a man, so he has nothing to reproach her with. He says it's also true that she got the best score on this exam, so he has nothing to blame her for, much less punish her for it. He says that's why it doesn't matter that she became a knight while being a woman. The girl hearing these words was very much surprised and could not believe that she was accepted. But she asks the Marquis if this means that she is accepted as a knight. A guy tells a girl that he hates wasting time on nonsense and asks her if she will ask about it all the time while calling her Arun. The girl bows to him and apologizes while thanking him, at which time she blushed and thought that now she was a real knight, despite being a woman. Going on the way home, the girl was very much rejoicing and thought that she was able to do it. And now she is a real knight and can earn money for her family. Suddenly her friend, who looks like she's lost her mind, appears and hugs the girl very tightly while calling her name. A girl doesn't understand what's going on with her friend Deborah. But the friend is scared and asks the girl, what the hell is she doing? She asks the girl if she's already met Marquis Bert. Only the girl had time to say she'd met, when her friend got scared and asked her if she'd been caught and kicked out of the selection. The girl tells her friend that she has indeed been caught while smiling, but even her friend has no time to say anything. She adds that the Marquis said that everything is fine, even if she is a woman, he will still accept her as a knight. The girl was very happy and said she was very proud of herself. But her friend did not understand how it was that even after he realized that she was a woman, he still took her into the order. The girls walked together holding each other's hands and talking. Deborah tells her friend that she has a really strong liver because she could take it all. She asks Archon how she could have left without telling her anything about it. Archon answers her that she must have been devastated by it, but her friend said she was very glad that Marquesa was so understanding. Otherwise, she wouldn't be walking around now. Archon agrees with her friend and tells her that in her opinion the captain is a good man. The heroine says that she will try very hard to reach the top, while her friend smiles very sweetly, as if she is very proud of her friend. Our heroine says that first of all, she is very hungry. But first she needs to wash up and offers her friend to go to dinner and tells her that after dinner she will take her home. When her friend heard about the wash, she was furious because she had no idea where her friend was going to wash, because they weren't even close to her house. Here they come to one place, which outwardly looked like a Khrushchevka. But the girl, smiling sweetly, opened the door and said to her friend, "Welcome to her new home." At the sight of this, Deborah became worried about her best friend and gently asked her if she had no money at all at the moment. The girl replied that indeed she was going through a difficult time. Her friend said that if she had asked her for help, she would have been happy to help her with the money and asked her why she hadn't done so until now. Archon told her friend that it was okay and suggested that her friend get a haircut first before going inside, while smiling as if she hadn't said anything surprising. Her friend, hearing this, of course, was surprised since Archon has gorgeous hair and asked her friend what it meant to cut her hair, but the girl said they needed to cut it off. Even this time, her friend didn't understand why they should be cut off. But the protagonist explained to her that she was a knight now, and in her opinion, it would be easier for her to work if her hair didn't get in the way. Then Deborah said there was a magic stone, but her friend immediately replied that it was expensive for her, but Deborah suggested that she could buy it for her friend. Archon said it wasn't necessary, and asked her friend why she should buy it. The girl said she's fine with short hair because she thinks she's pretty, and it wouldn't be tragic if she cut it off, but the girl is really pretty. When her friend heard that, she got angry and took her by the hand, telling her that she couldn't leave it like that, and ordered her to follow her and started dragging her somewhere. They come to a store and Deborah tells the clerk she needs a magic stone that makes her hair shorter. The girl says she will use it on herself, so it can give her the most valuable thing. When the protagonist heard this, she was embarrassed because she felt awkward that her friend was spending such money for her. The girls took the stones and left the place for a walk. The girls reached the park and sat on a bench, and Archon, holding a mirror in her hand, marveled that this stone was really incredible, and said she didn't know if she looked like a good-looking guy or if she was just pretty. The girl asks her friend if it's true that the effect won't wear off until she casts the spell, because she's going to have a lot of training in the future, and asks her friend if the stone's effect won't wear off. The main character tells her friend that instead of spending so much money on stones, she could just cut her hair, and asks her if she's not spending too much money on magic stones. Deborah angrily replies that she doesn't want to cut her hair, and asks why she would want to cut it off when there are enough magical stones in the world to do so. Deborah places her hand on her friend's back, telling her not to worry about the price of the stone, and instead focus on training for the knights, while smiling sweetly. Archon exhales with ease because she says that now all preparations are complete and the obstacles are overcome. The girl says that from now on, there is only one thing left for her to do, and so suggests her friend to go home. Our heroine is full of life, tells her friend that tomorrow she's joining the knighthood, so she has to hurry so she can get ready. The next morning when she leaves the house, She notices that her neck is a little cold because of her short hair. She says that if it is possible to earn money here, she will soon have it. A girl is walking down the street, and she covers her face a little with a hood so no one will recognize her. She thinks she'd better stay out of sight. The girl thinks she has to get back soon so she won't get in trouble for someone finding out she's a woman. She stops for a moment and thinks about the fact that she's finally become a knight like she dreamed. She thought she was now a knight of the Great Order of Bertha, and she was enthusiastic about how cool her first mission as a knight would be. 4 days later, the girl wondered what the hell for those 4 days she did nothing. She says the first day until morning came, there were no instructions other than to wait in the room. In addition, she has not even had time to get acquainted with the other candidates who have passed the selection. She thinks that then she must try to do it during tomorrow's training. A girl with a sad look wants tomorrow to come soon. On the second day, the girl woke up to a knock on the door. Someone behind the door apologized and said just for a moment, the girl thought that training would finally start. It turned out that she had a manicure. At that moment, the girl didn't understand why, and asked the woman who gave her a manicure if she could explain what it meant. The girl thought to herself, why do it with the hands of a knight when in training they will all be in the dust? She thought then that she was doing it because she was a woman. She thought that Bert had told her the last time they met that he didn't care about the sex. And suddenly, she asked with a frightened look if by any chance the captain didn't like it. And at that moment, the girl thought something bad, because we see that the Marquis has a manicure in the picture. The girl told herself to stop thinking about it. On the third day, the girls did masks. She asked one woman when the training would start, but she told her not to move or she would get wrinkles. Then the girl asked herself, why all this if there was no training? On the fourth day, they were told to go to the training ground in the uniform they had been brought. The girl was excited to start training until she saw the uniform she had been brought. She then asked herself if he wanted her to come there in a dress. The girl thinks he's just mocking her, and asked if he suddenly wants revenge for her kissing him then. The girl doesn't understand why a man named Playboy would want revenge for a damn kiss. The girl doesn't understand why he wants her to practice in front of everyone in that old dress. She says she's already trying hard to hide that she's a woman. The girl wondered if he had accepted her into the order so that she could be near him. But the girl thought that she could not just give up and leave. The girl thought that no one had told her that she could not wear something over her dress, so she decided to wear a cloak as well. The girl says that this is a really great opportunity to become a knight after all, and asks herself, will this training be anything special? Before the girl walked into practice, she stopped near the door and thought that if anyone mocked the fact that she was a woman, she would deny it in every way possible. When she went to the training, the girl was surprised that all the men were wearing a dress. It looked quite funny. Then the girl thought that he did not tell only her to wear a dress because she is a woman. It turned out that it was an order for everyone. At this point, the girl does not understand what is happening. Then the girl thought that she almost cussed him out because she thought the wrong thing. After all this, the girl didn't know what she was even thinking, since many people train in dresses, but there are also those who threw them away. The girl says that, first of all, we should start training. At the same moment, the commander-in-chief comes out and asks the knights if they are doing well and how they are doing with their training. He says that at his first training, he had a hard time resting and warming up. One man couldn't stand it and shouted at the commander that it was a disgrace. He said that from day one, they were forcing him to do things that were totally unacceptable for a noble man. The commander-in-chief asked the man what his name was. The man replied that his name was Ian. Then the commander-in-chief told him that he understood and sent him to train, and turned around and left. Then the man realized his mistake and that he didn't have to do it, and asked himself what he was doing. And our heroine just stared at him. Apparently, the girl is already tired after all. She thought it was hard for her to swing the sword when she is wearing uncomfortable clothes. She says that she is already exhausted. At the same time, you can see that she is trying very hard. The commander-in-chief announces to them that all training that took place at the training camp is now complete, and during the training camp he will assign them to squads, depending on their own attitude to training. He informs them that Charlos is leaving for the 3rd Night Squad, while Ian and Lawton are going to the 4th. Then smilingly tells them to pack their things and go to their assigned squads. He tells them not to hesitate and to move quickly. The commander-in-chief says the others who stayed behind did a good job. He says there were a lot of things he didn't understand, but he diligently followed them. He calls them by their names Alfonso, Loren, Arun, Bark, and informs them that they are 4 men who did not question orders and simply carried them out. He tells them that they will now become a special night squad that will be with the captain 24 hours a day, no matter what the order. Usta must be steadfast and the sword true. All the squad that is left said, "So true." Our protagonist could not believe her luck, and the fact that she was able to reach a special unit to accompany the captain. Then she realizes that before she screwed up her harsh conclusions. The girl says that she was so upset that she stayed up all night. She says that she can't even think that she will have to follow the captain everywhere. The girl says that she used to think that a knight commander and an ordinary low-ranking king would never be able to face each other, and so she was calm, but she was wrong. A girl is unsure of herself and wonders if her life as a knight will work out in the future. She listens to her co-workers say that one got a lifetime allowance and asks, "Is this job so dangerous?" Another says they are a special unit serving the captain, and the girl reflects on the fact that things are happening too fast for her, and she needs to get a grip. One man begins to say that he recently heard that there are only 8 men in the special unit, and asks where the other 4 senior knights are. After all, they have not seen them. All the commotion as suddenly begins to smell something delicious. One person says that they were informed that this is a special dish, so it may be meat. Another says that he would still like something to drink. Our heroine says that first we should eat something delicious. Suddenly, a pumped-up jerk approaches her and introduces himself as Bark and asks our heroine what her name is, but he addresses her as a man. She replies that her name is Arun and says it's nice to meet you. This guy says it's mutual and says that Arun seems so small and fragile. Our heroine replies that he seems like a pumped-up jock with only muscles instead of a brain. From these words, Bark gets very angry and asks Arun, "Why does a guy who is not even a mage wear a robe?" While Arun asks him why an animal like him wears human clothes. This made Bark even more angry and said that Bark was challenging Arun to a duel and asked if he accepted the challenge, but he seemed very indignant and in complete earnest. Our heroine smilingly replies that she fully agrees, but she wants to try a special dish and suggests to him that they end this charade quickly. They came up behind the captain and wanted to ask his permission, but they didn't even have time to say it, because the captain told them that as they already knew, they shouldn't damage buildings and equipment. He tells them to come back as soon as they're done. In the back, 2 guys ask the captain for permission if they can stay and watch the whole thing. One of the guys says that he thinks Oren will lose because they have a big difference in physique, but the captain says it happens a lot, so it's no big deal. Marquis Bert asks himself if the girl hasn't been tested by pretending to be a man, and then asks how it's possible to agree to a duel right after the greeting, while thinking she's a very interesting woman. But he also wonders who will win. At the time of the fight, the girl thought he started it all. She also noticed that her opponent was pretty damn strong, and from the look on her face, we can tell she doesn't have much faith in herself. At which point, her rival asks her what she's doing. At that moment, the girl thought she couldn't beat this bastard with her strength or speed, but her rival seemed to be mocking her. Her opponent said it was a lot of fun for him. At that moment, the girl thought the duel was getting too dangerous, but she didn't give up. 2 guys are talking to each other, and one guy asks the other guy if he thinks the fight will be over soon. The other guy says it looks like one of the guys thinks the big guy will win. At the moment when the girl almost lost, falling to the ground, her rival said that now everything, and he had fun. But not so, because our heroine thought that she should not let her guard down. She says that dueling is not only about physical strength, and using magic she defeated her opponent, while he fell to the ground. The guy asks how magic can be used in such a sneaky way, while the girl in her head said that she won. Everyone who watched was shocked that the girl won, because everyone thought that the guy would win. Even Marquis was speechless at the sight of this number. One guy asks the other what happened, while the other didn't expect this turn of events and said, "Why the hell did that little guy win?" with both standing there with their mouths open. At this time, Marquis thought about the fact that the girl used magic, and then once again said it in his head. Then he ordered the guys to take the injured man to the infirmary. They of course obeyed and did as they were told. The girl tried to bring the guy to his senses and told him to get up. At this time, other guys came outside who were very surprised that the wrong guy had won. One guy told our heroine that they actually thought she'd lose, while another guy said it turns out she's also a magician. They said they're taking Bark to the infirmary so we can go to the banquet hall. The girl thanked the guys, and then thought that she could still feel the gaze from the banquet hall, but it turned out that it was Marquis who was looking at her. The girl panicked when she realized that she and the Marquis had just met eyes, and at that moment the Marquis makes a single hand motion to her to let her know to approach him. The girl smiled and asked herself in her head if he wanted her to come to him. She was surprised that he was paying attention to her again. We find out that the girl not only wields a sword, but also magic. She started to tell us that it happened to her 2 years after she started learning to wield a sword. It was a normal day in which she was practicing with the sword that day. The girl thought that today it was hot, and that it was time for her to finish practicing. Just when she wanted to leave the sword, it happened to her. At that moment, the girl did not realize what had happened to her, but her father immediately came over. The girl asked her father if he had also seen what had just happened because for her, it was incomprehensible. The girl asked her father what it was, but at that moment her father did not explain anything and only said that she should never show this ability to other people. Her father hugged her tightly and said that at this point that was all he could tell her about this incident that had just happened to her, and apologized to his daughter. The girl says she didn't know her father had apologized. It turns out a man with magical powers is welcome in the Empire, but it doesn't work that way for a woman. The girl says that people think they are witches, bringing only misfortune. It turns out that long ago, when the Empire was ruled by Emperor Claim, women who were evil with magic and witchcraft staged a rebellion. Those women, for whom advancement was impossible due to gender, at some point invaded the imperial palace to create a new state. These women destroyed everything they saw in their path using the power of the primordial stone. In the end, the rebellion was suppressed, only thanks to the mobilization of all the mages and knights of the Empire. Those women nearly destroyed the entire Empire, and since then, a strong prejudice has formed in the minds of the people of the Empire that a woman who uses Manu or magic is a witch and should be avoided. But our heroine has no need to worry now, for those prejudices have no effect on her now that she is pretending to be a man. The girl goes to the captain, but on the way she convinces herself that he won't kick her out, because she thinks he appreciated her skills, fighting, and swordsmanship. She walks up to them and asks the captain if he called her. At that moment, the captain points to a chair, telling her to sit there. The girl sits down opposite the Marquis, and you can see that she is very nervous, for she does not know what she is going to talk about. The captain starts to tell the girl that if other people find out that she has magic as a woman, she could be in big trouble. But the girl tells him that she is very careful, and that she showed her abilities because she was sure that her gender would not be revealed. Captain asked the girl if her ability is related to light, because it was something electrical, like lightning. He says it would be difficult to defeat Bark just by physical strength. The girl says that her victory is possible because she has magic besides the ball. Then the captain asks the girl why she used a sword along with magic. The girl answered him that the possession of magic takes too much effort, but apparently the guy did not understand this, because he thought in his head how it is possible, after all, in his opinion, to develop the aura to such a level must take a lot of effort. And he thinks that if she owns it, she must be more than 30 years old. He thought that someone with a face like hers couldn't be more than 30. At that moment, he tells the girl that it's the first time he's ever seen someone intuitively use magic like she did, and asks her what would happen if his aura and the girl's mana collided. At this point, the girl is a little confused and says that she doesn't know much about magic, so she's afraid there might be a problem. At this point, Bert tells the girl that she's right, and says that they'll deal with it gradually. At that moment, the girl in her head thanked him for supporting her. He told the girl that she just needed to do well in her role in the future, in order to avoid any problems. The girl was very happy with these words, and she smilingly thanked the captain for these words. And at that moment she thought that the captain was very handsome, because she saw him smiling, and at that moment she blushed. A guy handed a girl a cookie and told her he thought she'd like it. The girl thanked him and said she'd definitely eat it, but in her head she thought, how does he know she likes it? She thought maybe he'd seen her eat it at that ball, and at the same moment told the captain that he'd asked her at that reception if she'd seen him before. The guy didn't think the girl would remember it, and was pleasantly surprised that the girl remembered the conversation. The girl said that he was the gentleman who gave her and her friend the last cake in the pastry shop, but the guy immediately denied it because he had another version. Bark asks our heroine, who is pretending to be a guy, "How can you not know that the captain has aura?" and asked if he lives in the mountains, because he doesn't know it. But our heroine replied that, of course, because he is a commoner. At this moment, Bark put his hand on the girl's face, but we see that she does not like it at all, and told her that somehow he is good in battle, although such a baby, well. Our heroine, angry, replied not to touch her dirty hands. At that moment, she thought this guy is really saying whatever comes to his mind. She asked him if he is from a noble family. Bark says Aaron defeated him, so he will tell him. He says he is the youngest son of the Cowden family. At that moment, the captain came up to them and told Aaron that since he now knew everything, he congratulated him on his entry into the knightly order. Pour, and at the same time some drink into the mug. Apparently the girl had not noticed him before, and was surprised when he came near her. She asked him when he came up. The captain at this point said that he believed he would do well in the future. At that moment, the girl, smiling but with flushed cheeks, told the captain that, as she had said before, her soul and body belonged to the captain. At that moment, he told her that enough was enough. The captain called the attention of all who were there, and began to say that he wanted to congratulate everyone present on becoming a Knight of Bertha. All cheerful, with smiles on their faces, raised their mugs and began to all say, "What they drink to the Knights of Bertha." After a while, the main character, together with her friend Deborah, sat in a coffee shop and drank tea together. But in the picture, we see that Deborah sits with a rather sad expression on her face. Our heroine tells her friend that still expensive clothes sit completely different, and thank her friend for this gift. The girl says that they will not be able to see each other so often after her vacation, but this outfit will always remind her of her friend. Suddenly, she turns her attention to her friend. The girl noticed that her friend had tears in her eyes and asked her if she was crying. At that moment, Deborah started sobbing very hard and put her head on the table. Archon was afraid for her friend and asked her what was wrong and why she was crying. At that moment, Deborah asked her friend if she really needed to become a knight, and why she would do that if she was suffering so much there. Archon starts telling me that it's a really hellish workout. She says there's climbing with gear, endless running on a plan, dinner standing on your hands. And at this point, she thought if she were Deborah, she'd be worried about herself too. The girl, smiling sweetly, told her friend to raise her head, and looking at her, said that now her beautiful eyes are swollen. The girl put her hand on her friend's face and told her not to worry too much. After all, she knows that becoming a knight is her dream since childhood. Archon tells her friend that they'll see each other many times, and that she'll write to her friend often, but not the thief, says her family could sponsor her, and then she wouldn't have to be a knight. Our heroine thanks her friend profusely, but tells her it's her choice. When she says all this, she recalls a picture of when she was still rich and having fun with her friend. Deborah tells her friend that then she has no choice but to support her, while her friend agrees. Turns out the captain is also present in the same cafe. He's having tea with a very nice girl. He asks her if she has sent a reply to the emperor's marriage proposal. The girl tells him that she has, and asks for more time. The girl tells the captain that she doesn't know if he'll accept it. The girl's name is Louise Silas Burt, and she is the only daughter of the Burt side family. Turns out she's Ludwig's sister. He asks the girl if she is well aware of His Majesty's intention. The girl replies that no matter how much she postpones the engagement, in the end it will be as he wants. The guy gets angry and says he won't allow it. The girl tells him not to get angry and suggests he should talk about something fun, and you take his hand. At this moment, Louise thought that it would seem that not long ago, this guy was just a little kid and followed her everywhere, his big sister. But now she thought that he had grown up so fast. And the guy asked her where she was looking, and she saw Deborah and Archon, and asked her brother if he knew them. The guy replied to the girl that it's just an acquaintance, but the girl says they have atmosphere is kind of weird. She thought maybe it's a love quarrel, Hearing this, Bert a little surprised, since he knows it's two girls. Louise tells her brother to look at the couple. She assumes that this knight must be saying goodbye to his beloved, and so she cries. The girl invited her brother to approach them. She says she would like to say hello to them. Her brother says that if Mrs. Louisa wishes it, she will. They interrupted the conversation, while Deborah was telling her friend that it was impossible, and asked her what knights work so hard, whereupon her friend replied that if the truth were hard, she would scold the captain. At that moment, Mr. Bert greeted Aaron. The girl was surprised to see the captain, and with some girl, the girl doesn't know it's his sister. Our heroine said good evening to the captain, and at that moment, Louise said she was pleased to welcome the new knight Bert, and introduced herself as Louise, and bowed slightly. Deborah and Archon also bowed and introduced themselves, but Archon introduced herself as Arun. The captain, laughing a little, tells our heroine that it suits her very well. This new suit, but our heroine, with a slightly disgruntled face, thanked him and said that the captain also looks great. At this point, the girl thought that he seems to be laughing at her and for a good mood. After a short conversation, they said goodbye, and the captain said they would see each other tomorrow at the initiation ceremony. Louise wished them a good time while calling them Lord Arun and Lady Deborah. At that moment, Archon looked at the captain's footsteps, thought that they were very suitable for each other, and asked herself if they were dating, while her expression was sad. The day of initiation into the Knights of the Order of Bertha had come. The captain was telling them that they were the present and future Order of Bertha, that they were the light of the Empire. He was telling them to put away their fears of the sword, and to put away their fears of the enemy. The captain says that the Order of Bertha will always support them for their loyalty, at which time the girl thought that she was now a true knight, for this is a direct decree of the captain. The girl asked herself why Bert was looking at her like that. He went up to her and got very close to her, while telling her that she really deserved it. The girl heard this and blushed, and they looked at each other directly in the eyes. You can tell from their looks that they like each other. The girl officially said that she thanked the captain and that he was beautiful too, and said that he wanted her to be here with him whenever she wanted. Already at the dinner table, Arun asks his colleagues how they like the appetizers prepared with his magic. One of the guys said that today, he is in charge of appetizers for the knights. At that moment, the captain approached them from behind, telling them that he thought they were having a lot of fun. He said there was information for the new recruits in the squad, telling them to gather at headquarters after lunch. The captain asks them if they are well aware of what will happen if they fail to keep it a secret. At that, he smiles. Already at the meeting, the captain tells them to inform the new recruits that their mission starts right now. He says that all knights must change into their issued uniforms. They all agree and go to change. Already in the locker room, everyone is changing, except for our heroine. She thought about how to change her clothes here, that no one would not guess that she is a girl. At that moment, the captain calls her and tells her to go with him. Everyone in the squad says pro that the kid who uses magic is very diligent. At that moment, our heroine thought that it would be better for them to read her diligent than to know that she is a girl. As they changed, the girl thought their uniforms looked like those of the Kama mercenaries, and asked herself what this mission could be. When leading the captain, she was surprised, since according to her, the captain looks incredibly cool in those clothes. They are told that they will accompany the carriage. And whatever happens, no one must find out that they are Knights of the Order of Bertha. They are pointed out to them, told to keep this in mind. The girl thought that it was not just an ordinary carriage, but an imperial carriage. The girl thought that the day someone would be forced, and their own relatives would kill them. The captain says that the emperor has hired mercenaries to kill Prince Raisin. He says that the purpose of this mission is to rescue the prince and allow him to escape by faking his death. The captain says that he, Aaron, Bark, and Samuel will take on the mercenaries while the remaining 4 knights will accompany the prince. The girl then asked herself if it was true that Prince Raisin himself was present in this carriage. He is the son of the emperor's older brother, Duke Carson, and he has just turned 7 years old. However, the current Emperor Foden is determined to eliminate all those whose existence threatens his throne. His older brother and his successor, who himself has abdicated the throne, are no exception. Carson stayed in the duchy for the sake of peace and stability in the Empire Point. The relationship between the brothers seemed to have settled until the Emperor set his sights on Carson's son. Suddenly, the carriage was attacked, and someone shouted to protect the Prince of Raisin. The captain asked Arun if he could handle knights like Bark. Our heroine replied, smiling, that he could, while Bark wasn't too happy about it. The captain said that the knights in charge of escorting are unaware of the attack. He tells his team to avoid unnecessary killing if possible, while telling everyone to go ahead. One of the mercenaries asked one of the knights if the client had made the same request to the other mercenaries. Meanwhile, the captain approached them and said that those who were about to die did not need to know. He ordered the knights to leave no one alive. The mercenaries screamed for help, begging for mercy, but it didn't help them. At that time, one of the knights said that it was over, and someone should inform the client about the child's death. One man survived, and the captain ordered him to give him to eat something, after which it will begin after they have gone. And by means of this, after it has begun, will inform the client that Prince Reason has been killed by an attack of the mercenaries. At this time, our heroine was amazed that killing over 30 mercenaries in a single instant, that's marvelous, and in her head said that the captain is incredible. At that moment, the captain went to the rock. At that time, the girl asked herself why he was going there. At this time, the captain jumped down from the rock. At this time, our heroine was very frightened and started to run to him. Dear friends, on this note, we will end the story. But if you want to see the next part, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. And do not forget to put a like under this video. When it gets 4,000 views or 5,000 likes, I will make the next part for you. See you soon.